when I was a kid growing up, Saturday mornings usually meant watching cartoons, right? And my favorite cartoon, nowadays people have Netflix, HBO, and all that stuff, YouTube, and conferences on Saturdays. So instead of watching cartoons, now we do all these neat things. And my favorite show was Super Friends, because it had Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and of course, I always rooted for the B movie type heroes, though. All their friends, and like the Wonder Twins. And I don't know if you remember these guys. A lot of you were born, when these shows were canceled. So the Wonder Twins, Stan and Jaina, are these aliens who came down to Earth, and somehow they were adopted by the Super Friends. And they have this space monkey called Gleek. Not this Gleek, right? The original Gleek, right? And they were Wonder Twins for a reason, because they had superpowers, right? And Jaina has this power of metamorphosis. She can change into any animal she wants. And her brother has this thing called hydrokinesis. He can take the form of any form of body of water or ice or some water vapor, cloud, or whatnot. And even their space monkey, some people claim had superpowers, which I called multidimensional powers, because somehow, during the show when you watch it, he'll be able to pull up a pail out of nowhere. And then, the thing will go into that pail, so he can carry him around. And the Wonder Twins, the way they work is they have to activate their powers. And how do they do that? They touch and they say, Wonder Twins power activate, right? And just one note, I don't know if you can see this. That was in around 1970, so they really came out with a fist bump, even before Obama came up with it. So I just wanted to give props to open source. But Obama did this exploding fist bump. I don't know if you saw that a month ago. But let me give you a quick background on the Wonder Twins. Just a minute and a half. So what has this got to do with open data? I just wanted to wake you guys up. Samana did a rousing job, but it's Saturday morning. I'm sure a lot of you did some things Friday night, so just try to spice it up. So I want to talk about New York City in particular. As Samana mentioned, New York City is leading the way. Because as you know, we have Bloomberg, the original data geek, who's, doing his last year in New York City, and he made his money doing data. And New York City, it's a city of superlatives, right? So we have 50 million visitors a year, 8.5 million people. And if you even look at New York City, the number of employees that New York City has, 300,000 employees serving 8.4 million people. If you look at New York City as a company, it's in the top 10 in the Fortune 500, right? It's just behind Pepsi-Cola. And last year, Bloomberg passed this law. Of course, some other people, help as well. And it's this landmark open data law, the first municipal open data law that mandates that all these employees and all 120 agencies start giving the data by default, So, and that's a big thing. And just 2 weeks ago, New York State followed the lead. They just released this open data portal, so even New York State is releasing data. And then about a week ago, about 70 more municipalities in New York who may not have the scale of New York City, Albany, and Schenectady, and all those other cities who want to share data are also sharing their data in the state open data portal. So we can truly say that New York City is the empire state of data, because unlike some other tech hubs, right, we have all these data-driven industries here, from finance to media. We're all dealing with data, because everything's data, right? Everything is data, as we know from the Matrix. So if you look at something like Times Square, for instance, if it's all data, because if you go to NYC.gov/data, you have data about the billboards in Times Square, the potholes in Times Square, the restaurants, the inspection grades, the health violations. It's all data. And I submit that this data is the new oil, the new gold of this generation, right? And the best part of it is, it's nothing to be feared of because it's big open data. It's, as Sumana mentioned once again, data about us, for us, and paid by us. So we don't need to pay anybody to get this data and mash it up and do all kinds of innovations on it. And we can use this data for public good and also for profit, right? Our business, Ontodia, is actually, we started a startup just doing open data. And I want to really give credit to New York City too, because they really had the prescience, when the financial crisis happened back in 2007, 2008. The city realized that about 30% of its tax base comes from Wall Street, right? So they said, we need to diversify our tax base, so we need to really pump up the tech scene. And they started this program, they had BigApps in 2009. They hired the first chief digital officer, Rachel Houth. They're opening up in Roosevelt Island, the Cornell Technion School, so we can have more engineers in the city. They even are opening up this new center in Brooklyn, the Center for Urban Science of Progress, where they want to define the science of cities, uses all these data to do all kinds of innovations. And it's all described in this roadmap, the roadmap for the digital city, which they just updated about 3 months ago. Right, so they're really pushing it, even though there are about 290 days left in the Bloomberg administration. They're really pushing it, all these innovations, so it's well underway, right? And one innovation that the city did, in celebrating its success in the few years it's been making this tech push, is they have this map. I don't know if you must have heard of this. It's made in ny.com. It's a map of all the startups, the incubators, the investors in the city. There are about, I believe, almost 2,000 as of now. This is a pretty old screenshot. And even the data behind this, they started sharing, right? So Rachel, sometime last year, she tweeted, hey, we're starting to expose the data behind that map. And I replied, hey, of course, we're interested in getting that data and doing something with it. And a little bit after that, because if you try going to that map, it's amazing. You can look for a specific firm if it's hiring and all that good stuff. But I wanted to really slice and dice the data about all these tech startups. So we created this faceted search, right? So I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of faceted search. I can put in some filters. Like if you go to Newegg, you can see, I only want to see startups in Queens that are hiring. And then the city, the chief of research, or in our open data star, Andrew Nicklin, we kept updating the data. So we decided, let's mash it up further. So we started mashing it up with geonames and mashing it up with Crunchbase. And with that mashup, we can then ask questions like, show me all startups in Queens who are in this web scene, right? And have 5 employees and have funding. Something like that. I can ask that question now with this mashup. But doing this mashup wasn't that simple, even though the data was available in the open data portal. Because if you look at the data, it's not geocoded. There's no neighborhood information. And some of the addresses were, kind of quirky. So what we want to do, our mission at Ontodia, is we want the ability for you guys to mash up this data and do all kinds of great innovations, right? And that's what we're building. We're releasing it this summer. I'm going to do a quick demo. I'm going to show what we're going to see show to the public for the first time, Pediacities. One thing I want to also, and I'm sure this is a familiar face, Tim O'Reilly. Tim O'Reilly, Mr. Gov 2.0. Mr. OpenGov, because that's another thing that we should think about, is it's not just open source, open data, and open technology. Is we have to think about government too as open, OpenGov, Gov 2.0, right? Because if you look at government as a platform, right now we're used to, you know, servers as a service, right? Or all these as a service type offerings that we do use now in the private sector. What if we start doing that with government, right? And treat it as a platform. Because right now, a lot of us think of government in this way, as a vending machine, right? We put some tax money in, and then somehow we get some services. And then if things don't work out, you know, we shake that vending machine, and hey, you know, where's my stuff? And you know, that's the existing mode of engagement that most people have with government. But maybe we can also use the principles of open when dealing with government and make it a two-way conversation. And you have a chance to do that right now. About a week and a half ago, BigApps 2013 was announced by the city. And this year they have a much bigger purse, I believe about 150K. And the winner has access to almost something like 65, 70K. So you're going to mash up on the city's open data and use any open source technology or proprietary technology you want, so long as you can contribute it back to the city. And you know, it's fairly aggressive. By June 7, you can turn in your innovations. And actually next week, we're going to do a hackathon and an expo in eBay, showing people how to use this open data and all these open tools. I'm sure a lot of you will be there, but I invite for those who are not planning or a free weekend to come. We started a meetup group, Big Open Data. So it's not just about using big data for all kinds of big brother type insights. We want to use big data, big open data for public good and profit too. And yeah, Pedacities, that's the brand for our offering to help you create your big ambitions at Big Apps. Thank you.